Put a film on your phone, 24 frames a second. Your panel can answer by speeding up 60 Hz to 120. Why would slower content need a faster screen? You have seen what happens when it doesn't. A slow pan across a landscape and the whole shot stutters, not blurry, stuttering, like the camera is stepping instead of moving. Your phone is holding some frames longer than others. It has to. 24 doesn't fit into 60. I thought this was going to be another story about a number on a box being a lie. It isn't. 120 is a real number, doing real work. What I had wrong was what it is counting. 3 different systems on your phone get a say in how often that screen updates. The panel, the operating system, and the app you are in. Any one of them can change the number. None of them will tell you. And the thing that decides which numbers are even allowed isn't speed at all. Start with who gets to choose. Android's display manager hands SurfaceFlinger a minimum and maximum refresh rate. SurfaceFlinger picks the actual number. On Pixel, smooth display raises the rate only for some content. Turn on battery saver and it switches off entirely. On iPhone, low power mode caps a ProMotion panel at 60 Hz. So there are 3 numbers here, not 1. Panel refresh rate, compositor present rate, app frame rate. They're frequently 3 different values at the same instant. So what refresh rates can the panel actually choose from? 1 to 120 Hz sounds like a dial. It isn't. An adaptive panel only runs at divisors of its tearing effect signal. That signal is the panel's own timing heartbeat. In Android's worked example, the base ticks at 240 Hz. That's 1 tick every 4.16 milliseconds. The panel's minimum frame interval corresponds to 120 Hz. That's its real maximum refresh rate. Once that minimum interval has passed, a frame can present on any multiple of the tick. Timing base and refresh rate are different numbers. The rates in between are a discrete ladder, not a slider. So which rungs can a 24-frame film actually land on? An app declares its content cadence with set frame rate. That's a hint into a negotiation, not a command. Android tells developers not to check supported modes first, and asking for less can run the panel faster. An app declaring 24 Hz video can push the display from 60 to 120. At 60, 24 frames need 3.2 pull-down, 3 refreshes, then 2. That uneven cadence is film judder. At 120, the cadence divides evenly, because 120 is an integer multiple of 24. There's a cost. Some devices switch seamlessly because the platform pre-plans the change. It starts ticking apps at the new rate before the panel changes. Others blank the screen for about a second. That's why Android won't make that non-seamless switch unless the user turns on match content frame rate. That 1 Hz flaw isn't firmware, it's the backplane process. Each pixel holds its brightness on a tiny storage capacitor. Charge leaks out through the transistor that's meant to be off. On LTPS backplanes, low-temperature polysilicon, that leak is far bigger. A still image needs about 60 Hz refresh just to stay put. LTPO, low-temperature polycrystalline oxide, swaps part of the stack for oxide transistors. Indium gallium zinc oxide leaks far less when switched off. The capacitor now holds its charge for about 1 second. That 1 second is what permits 1 Hz drive. It isn't free. Flicker under low frame rate driving is an active display research problem. 2 different published pixel circuits, 2 different envelopes. One runs 1 to 120 Hz, another 1 to 240. So who decides which rung of that ladder your app lands on? Your game asks for 120 frames per second. SurfaceFlinger can decline. On each display tick, each V-sync, it checks whether that tick is in phase with your app. If it isn't, it holds the frame until they line up. That's throttling to a divisor of the refresh rate. The goal is even cadence, not peak frame rate. Game mode goes further. Game Manager service installs a frame rate override on one app's user ID. The allowed caps are 30, 40, 45, 60, 90, and 120. The game never sees it, and it only caps downward. Game mode's throttling is documented as buying power, up to 50% less GPU power and up to 20% less system power. Panel at 120, app at 30, both true at once. So on iPhone, can an app join the conversation at all? On iPhone, apps sit at the system default frame rate. Going higher needs one boolean in the app's property list. It's called CADisable minimum frame duration on phone. Chromium hit exactly this. Without the key, iPhone caps it at 60 frames per second. Since iOS 15, apps ask with a range: minimum, maximum, preferred. The system picks the nearest rate it can supply. Then the part that breaks debugging. UI screen's maximum frames per second always returns 120 on a ProMotion display. It returns 120 in low power mode too, where the panel is capped at 60. It reports capability, not state. Apple's advice is to measure the rate from CADisplaylink's own timestamps. Android had a different trap with the same result at API level 30, where get refresh rate could hand back a stale value. So when you do get 120, is it the 120 you were sold? Last layer, your eye. A phone OLED is sample and hold. Each refresh is held static until the next one arrives. Your eye keeps moving while the image doesn't. The frame smears across your retina. That persistence is the dominant blur term on modern phone OLEDs. It isn't pixel transition time. Gray to gray is near zero on OLED, so it isn't what you're seeing. An ideal 120 Hz sample and hold panel with zero transition time still carries 8.333 milliseconds of blur. It matches a 1/120th second camera shutter at the same panning speed, and blur tracks frame rate, not refresh rate. 60 frames per second content blurs the same on 60, 120 and 240 Hz panels. Halving the blur means doubling frame rate and refresh rate together. 120 was never a speed your screen holds. It is a rhythm it can hit cleanly. 24 goes into it 5 times, 34 times, 60 twice, and 60 cannot say that about 24. The number on the box counts cadences it can land on, and every layer above it is still free to pick a different one.